Bogota and Morocco. That's awesome to see people from all over the world joining in on this. Are there certificates of attendance? I don't believe there are. Fred, would you know if there's, Fred or Mackenzie, if that's something that's happening, certificates of attendance? I don't believe so. I have a couple of different people asking.
Yeah, so not officially, but after the webinar, there will be the recording. I'm not sure if that would, like if you attended, you will be able to receive the recording. I'm not sure if that could kind of fill in for attending the webinar itself as a completion.
Okay. Yeah, for the couple people who have asked, I guess if you guys are interested in the recording, we will be end up posting this on our website, so you can always use that. But I don't think we have like any type of certificate. But now that it's one, I think we can get started with a little bit of going on with the intro. So I'm just going to share my screen here and we can get started. Ooh. Went too far. Here we go. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our STEAM webinar or summer STEAM webinar series. For those of you who are joining us for the first time today, SamLabs has been hosting a series of webinars where we're talking a little bit about SamLabs, but really what we're doing is trying to showcase some of the educators that we've worked with historically and let them sort of take the reins and talk about, hey, this is what we've been doing. This is kind of the successes that we've had. So with us today are Sam Yancey and Abigail Yancey, which I'll introduce in just a minute here. But while we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about SamLabs, and then we'll get into introductions and a little bit of an agenda of what this is all going to look like. So to give you a little bit about what we're going to be going over today, first, we're just going to talk a little about SamLabs' vision and mission, sort of who we are and what we are as a company. We'll go over introductions and backgrounds. I'll give you a chance to talk about who the panelists are and a little bit about them. And then we'll go over some of the topics that Sam and Abigail have brought up for us. So the uncertain times for back to school, a quick overview of how SamLabs is responding to remote learning, a deep dive into some of the projects we've been working on with SamLabs and Strawbees. And then lastly, we'll have some time for some Q&A and then a giveaway of a Amazon gift card. But we can get into the introductions, or excuse me, to the vision and the mission and talk about SamLabs a little bit. If you've attended any of our webinars, you've probably seen this slide, but if not, to tell you a little bit about who we are as an organization. Our vision is to inspire and empower generations of problem solvers. Our mission is to equip educators with the tools, know-how, and mindset to reach learners' potential for computational thinking. And what that really means simplified is that we want to be able to give tools to the educators so that they can help with STEAM coding and create it so it's easy and simple to use and teach inside of the classroom. So that's sort of what we mean by giving them the tools for educators. And to tell you a little about who we are and I'll let Abigail and Sam and Mackenzie introduce themselves in just a moment here, but my name is Ziad Zabib. I'm one of the territory representatives for SamLabs. I'm based in the Pacific Northwest. Here's some of my information for me and Mackenzie, but you could reach out to anyone on the SamLabs team and we're more than happy to answer any questions you have and help you out. If you're ever looking to learn more about SamLabs, my email and Twitter handle are always there. I'm always happy to reply. But I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie so she can tell you a little bit about herself and what she does.
Sure, thanks, Ziad. Hi, everyone. I'm Mackenzie Meixner. I am the education consultant with SamLabs based in Philadelphia. I'm a former teacher myself, so I've taught all over the East Coast, and I've taught everything from 6th grade to 3rd grade. In the classroom, I took on a variety of roles as a general education teacher, as a special education teacher, and then most recently as a math and science specialist. I loved teaching STEAM in the classroom, and so I'm really excited to now join SamLabs as the education consultant, where my primary role is to support teachers. So I'm your go-to person as far as implementing SamLabs in the classroom. If you have any questions regarding content or curriculums and implementing the lessons in the classroom, I am here to support. I also am in charge of kind of the professional development and the training. And so if you ever have any questions about content or teachings with SamLabs, don't hesitate to reach out to me. As you had mentioned, my email is there. I'll pass it on to Abigail.
Hey everyone, I'm Abigail Yancey and I'm an educator in Western North Carolina. I have about 10 years experience of teaching English as a second language. And so I'm very passionate about making education accessible for all. And I also think that STEAM really helps students become prepared for their futures, for their careers, and for problem solving in real world situations. So my husband Sam really got me into STEAM, and it's something that we really want to bring to Western North Carolina and make accessible for all learners.
Hi, I'm Sam Yancey, and I really enjoyed working with my wife Abigail on this project. So excited to finally share it with you. I have 12 years of teaching experience, and I've taught at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. Right now, currently, the past 4 years, I've been serving as a K-12 gifted education teacher, and supporting those students that need that, they're advanced and need that challenge and that stretch. And one of the best ways I feel to support them is with STEAM education. So you can see some of my ideas and projects on my Twitter handle and the website I provided there. Love to connect with you and share ideas. Always want to learn new things about STEAM education. So thank you so much for attending.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't have this information, we'll be passing it along towards the end so you can get in contact with any of us. As well as if you want the slides, you could always reach out and we're more than happy to give you sort of a copy of the slides and everything that's going on. Here's a little bit about the project, Sam, if you want to speak a little about sort of what we're going to be going over.
So perhaps you feel like this dinosaur right now and your head's spinning a little bit thinking about going back to school and all of the major challenges that we're facing. And at the same time, I know that teachers are so resilient, and so you're digging in for solutions. Today we want to talk about one of those solutions, but before we do that, we want to think about the things that we're all going through, just to kind of put that forward, because this is about remote teaching. And so the challenge of planning for both hybrid and virtual learning scenarios at the same time and wrapping your mind around that, the unanswered questions that we all have and wish we had answers to, and the continual change we're facing, the students that we have that are hard to support because they maybe don't have access to internet or technology, and so we want to support them and pursue equity. The challenges of new safety measures in our schools to make sure that we're working to keep everyone safe, ourselves, our students and our families. And then on top of all of that, the higher expectations, this remote learning 2.0, you know, we want to do it better. We want to support students well. And so have that rigor, and then the same story that we've had before of the challenge of doing all of that with budget shortfalls and challenges with funding. So just wanted to put all those things forward and let you know that Abby and I as teachers are right there with you, experiencing these same things. And I'm sure you have other challenges that you're facing, but we wanted to put these things forward for you to be thinking about as we move into talking about how SamLabs has been working to adapt and support remote learning and support teachers and students during this time.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie and let her take over from here. If you guys want to give me 1 second.
Yeah, thanks, Yad. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. And I'm going to quickly go over, as Sam mentioned, we have been hard at work adapting a couple things. So we've been adapting our content as well as some new product offerings for support during distance learning. Now, this kind of comes because we want to support teachers, and that's kind of my role as the education consultant. And so we wanted to ensure that we were providing teachers with resources, and in a second, you're going to see what that may look like for distance learning and back to school. So quickly to talk about our content, and I have a couple more slides regarding content, but over COVID in the last couple months in summer, we've been running a couple student sessions, our 8 weeks of STEAM and coding series, as well as our summer camp. And we wanted to do this to ensure that as teachers, and we have about 4 former teachers on our team, we are understanding how to teach best with SamLabs in a virtual setting. And so we learned a lot of great things from doing this. And ultimately, one thing that we learned is that distance learning with SamLabs can occur with or without our Bluetooth blocks. And so if you're familiar with SamLabs, you know that we bring our code to life with our Bluetooth blocks that we actually build prototypes with, and it's very engaging and fun for the students. But some of the students who joined in our 8 weeks of STEAM and coding series came all 8 weeks and did not have blocks because they were able to build the code on the SamSpace app itself. And so we were kind of working in different engagement pieces so that kids could still have an engaging experience virtually while kind of building with household materials or maybe doing scavenger hunts and running around their house. So that's one thing to mention, as I think that's important to point out with our SamSpace app. Secondly, we have adapted our content specifically for engagement. So when we were running our summer camp, we were kind of huddled together as a team thinking about the best way to kind of engage students through the screen, as I'm sure many of you are considering going back into the school year. But not just that, I think that SamLabs as a product is very engaging in and of itself because of the designing and the tinkering aspect with the Bluetooth blocks. And so I think that it's really an awesome kind of option for the school year because there's the hands-on learning that will be occurring not only on the screen, but also off the screen. And I would say that a large and a majority of the portion of our lessons, students are actually designing and tinkering with the blocks. And so while they're seeing the screen and going through the lesson and the mini lesson and the content, then they're kind of switching their focus to building the code and then watching the code come to life with their blocks and building the prototype. So it's a really great offering for students, as a lot of parents have mentioned. Their students are, getting a little antsy sitting in front of the screen all day. And so this is something important to mention. Now, I know that schools are all going back differently. Some schools may be going back in a hybrid kind of setting. Other schools may be beginning virtually. But ultimately, when we adapted our content and decided on how to do so, we wanted to ensure that it was going to be used by all, could be used by all teachers, regardless of what your school has gone with. And so in person, so let's say that you're going back in a hybrid setting, we definitely recommend that if you are going back hybrid, that you want to set up SamLabs in the classroom. You want the students to explore the blocks, download the SamSpace app onto their devices, get them acquainted with the blocks and how they function and a little overview of how to use it, so that when they go home, they can kind of work on their own through the lessons. Now, if students are starting strictly through virtual learning, no worries, because in a second, I'm going to show you how we have adapted our content, both our STEAM and our Learn to Code course, so that teachers can use this as a synchronous or an asynchronous learning option. So that means if you would like to do live instruction with SamLabs and use our engagement features, but just remove our voiceovers and our videos and do live instruction yourself, you can. If you would like it to be asynchronous and have students watch our videos where we're showing them how to put the blocks together, you could also do that, and they could work through it self-paced. So more to come on content, but quickly want to jump over to what the product team has been working on. And that's some new products for teachers for distance learning. So first is our hybrid kit. Essentially, what the hybrid kit includes is that there's a couple lids in there. I shouldn't say a couple. There's 15 lids that essentially can click onto the trays of our classroom kits, and the kids can then take home the tray safely to and from school, and so the blocks don't go flying in their backpacks. The STEAM at Home kit it was designed in light back in March when we were in conversations with teachers around tech equity, and that some students didn't have access to technology and to devices to work with SamLabs. And so we wanted to ensure from SamLabs that we're passionate about all students being able to have a STEAM education. And so we wanted to create this no tech offering. So it's a bunch of different materials like pipe cleaners, cards, dice, and essentially we will be coming out with activities that students can kind of work through at home using those no tech materials. Next, we have our Alpha Kit. So if you are familiar with SamLabs, we've always had our STEAM Alpha Kit, but what's new is our Learn to Code Alpha Kit. And essentially, this is what it looks like. It comes in a nice little box. So if you didn't want to send home a tray from your classroom kit, you could kind of order or bundle a bunch of these boxes, and those could be transported to and from school. And lastly, we have our Creator Series kits, which is really exciting. And this is mostly what Sam's going to be talking about today. So I'm not going to lecture too much on this. I'm going to let him do that. But I do want to show you guys some of our cool offerings. I'm really excited about them. So first, you may be wondering, how are we adapting our content? So very quickly, I wanted to go over how we've been distance teaching with SamLabs and what we've used for those engagement features. Now, we've used Nearpod and Seesaw for camp, but we decided to move forward when adapting our whole curriculum using Nearpod. And I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why. If you are familiar with Nearpod, you probably know why, because it's really awesome. But if you're not familiar, I highly recommend exploring it. It's a really awesome platform, a lot of engagement features and activities, as well as ways to kind of integrate into your classroom already. And so as far as engagement aspects, that was the main thing on our mind when we were going into the 8 weeks of STEAM and coding series. Like, I had never had experience teaching virtually, and so this was really amazing to kind of learn how we can keep kids engaged. And there's different activities such as vocabulary matching games to practice that Tier 3 vocabulary in our lessons. There's different check for understandings, informative assessments in quiz form and open-ended form. There's different games, there's videos, not just YouTube videos, but the Nearpod team actually has released their own videos, which is a pretty cool feature. And then there's other kind of options, and my favorite aspect of Nearpod is the self-paced option. And so essentially you can assign it to your class and they can work through it over an extended period of time at their own pace. You can also make sure that students complete all the activities before they move on to the next activity, which is pretty cool. Another reason we chose Nearpod is because of its integrations. So if you do know, and you've been on our content hub, all of our content is in Google Slide form. So essentially, everything can be edited from Google Slides and also be integrated into your Google Classroom. And there's a brand new integration with Zoom, which is a really cool feature. So essentially, you can set up a Zoom class directly through Nearpod. And then it's also integrated with Microsoft Teams. Teachers can export student data directly from their Nearpod. And so this is a really cool feature when thinking about giving grades when in light of COVID and virtual learning. So that's cool. You can kind of track the data on how your students are doing in the lessons. And then lastly, it's student and parent friendly. All it is a class code, and you drop it into your classroom, or if you're doing live instruction, directly into the Zoom chat, and students can jump right into the self-paced Nearpod. So these are some reasons around why we chose Nearpod. But specifically as to how we are adapting our content, I wanted to share with you a new feature. Let me go to the next slide here, which is our SamLabs digital classroom. So this is a little sneak peek, and I'm actually going to jump into it right now to show you everything. We are going to begin with adapting our STEAM content, and we are going to house all of those adapted lessons, so all of those Nearpod lessons in this digital classroom. So that's kind of our plan, and I know that we'll drop this link for you so that you can check it out on your own. But let me present, and we'll click around so that we can kind of check it out. Now, rather than us being the Bitmojis, the kids would be like, who's that lady? We chose our characters from our STEAM and our Learn to Code course. So there's Sam and there's Blocky. And you can see here we have a little career corner so they can click around and check out some different blogs or about women in STEAM and coding. We have our library where we have actually linked read alouds with books themed around STEAM, coding, and engineering. And then we'll have our courses here. And so this is how we will release the adapted content to the teachers. But for right now, let's just check out the STEAM. And so again, this is the sneak peek, but here you can kind of explore 3 sample lessons that we have for you. So that you can get a vibe of what the engagement features may look like in Nearpod. Also hear our voiceovers, see our videos, and just check it out for yourself. We have a kindergarten, a 2nd grade, a 5th grade, so you can see across grade levels what that may look like. One thing to note is that it is in the student view, so you would be going through these Nearpod lessons as a student. When we set up and release our digital classroom, you will be getting the teacher links for teacher use so that you can make a copy of that link and do your own digital classroom. So that's just something to mention. And there's different links over here on the shelves to our block directory. If you wanted to check out the STEAN kit itself, you can also click there. And then other resources and materials that you will need will all be listed in the digital classroom for the kids. So let me jump out of that and back in to our presentation. But feel free to kind of click through that on your own. And if you have any questions regarding it, reach out to me, let me know. But one thing that I did want to mention is that next Friday, we will be having an in-depth exploration and a webinar regarding our digital classroom and our release of the distance learning content. So we have a couple different time offerings on Friday, August 21st, but we will explore this in more depth, and we'll also be releasing our 8 starter lessons so that you can walk away ready to start using SamLabs in the classroom. So I know I'm talking quickly, bear with me, I want to make sure that I give Sam enough time. But lastly, I wanted to share you in on our timeline for release. We have been hard at work to ensure that this is ready to go so you guys can start off the school year with a STEAM coding solution. So with that being said, we are embedding the videos, embedding these engagement activities, uploading the slide deck, and then ultimately into the classroom. But in mid-August, so actually next Friday, if you come to the webinar, you will walk away with the full new digital classroom as well as the 8 starter lessons complete. Mid-September, we will be releasing the 2nd to 5th grade lessons, and that's about 50 lessons that we'll be releasing for 2nd to 5th grade. Then at the end of September, we will release kindergarten to 1st grade lessons. So that's about 20 lessons for K1 and our younger kiddos. And then we'll move to our Learn to Code course. And our goal date for the Learn to Code course is the end of October. So this is kind of everything that we've been doing. I know that I was speaking quickly, but this is kind of our adapted content, what it will look like, and our timeline for everything to come. So without further ado, and I will answer questions about this at the end if you have questions specifically regarding distance learning and how we've adapted the content. But I'm going to stop sharing and pass it back to Sam.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Thumb up, can everyone hear me fine? We good? I had some feedback last time. That was so exciting to hear about. I'd heard snippets of it through the grapevine, but I hadn't heard the whole presentation. So that's really exciting to learn about all that SamLabs is offering to support virtual learning, support teachers and students. So thank you for sharing that. Let me share my screen as well now. We can dive into the mini kit that we've been working on. Let me see. I might need Abby some technical support. Thankfully, can you come in real quick? So while she's coming, we collaborate on this mini kit for the summer, and it was great to work together planning these lessons together. First time collaborating on a project in STEAM of this size and scale, and really put forward all of our creative energy and knowledge about STEAM and passion for supporting all students. But we work better together, and this is no exception. So she's helping me get the slides here. I don't know why I suddenly blanked on that, but here we are. So without further ado, thank you. The Creators Mini Kit, so excited to break it down for you. And the biggest thing that I want to start with, of course, it's really rooted in the standards that you're teaching, but also I wanted to really highlight that we really, in researching these standards and thinking about what topics we wanted to pursue, we really tried to pick topics that were relevant and high interest for students. So if you look at the 2nd and 3rd grade lessons and some of the topics there, Madagascar Adventure, thinking about the diversity of life and different habitats, students would learn about with rainforest and deserts. So exploring those habitats, Ring of Fire, thinking about volcanoes and natural, faster changes to the earth, and how excited students get to learn and learning about those different types of volcanoes. And Arctic Voyage, we got to research different ways that people have tried to explore the polar ice caps and the different ways that they've gone there, and the different maker opportunities that came out of that, and designing submarines. Operation Hurricane, thinking about extreme weather and how we teach students to be safe and to make a plan and respond to those events, and design low-tech and high-tech solutions to those naturally occurring hazards and problems. And then of course the dinosaur dig, fossils, and exploring our ancient past, and creating our own fossil models, and imagine that we're being paleontologists. So some great topics there for second and third graders to explore. And we, with the fourth and fifth grade topics, wanted to also do the same thing, to have some really exciting and engaging things for students to investigate. And so with plants, we live in North Carolina, and so we have the Venus flytrap. So we wanted them to learn about carnivorous plants when they were thinking about internal and external structures of plants. And we found out there's all kinds of amazing carnivorous plants that we didn't even know existed until we did this project. With gravity, we didn't want to just do how does the apple fall from the tree? We wanted to think about creative ways to explore gravity. So we came up with an arcade ball drop. So this kit's going to come with a ping pong ball, I believe. And students can make their own marble run or arcade ball drop, the Rube Goldberg machine, to explore and make sense of gravity. Hunting with raptors is not actually a second dinosaur lesson. It's actually about birds of prey, and your owls and your eagles, and how birds are so amazing, and they can sense information and then act upon it so quickly. And the owl that can turn its head 270 degrees, I can't even wrap my mind around that. And space, speeding towards the sun, and currently there's a Parker solar probe that's taking in data about our sun and helping us to learn. We're always learning so much about space. And so kids will get to learn about that Parker solar probe and design their own, make their own prototype of that. And coming back to Earth, we also did a Guardians of the Earth lesson where, wanting students to think about how they can be good stewards of the Earth and respond to the problem of plastic in our oceans and in our rivers, and design a solution to help with collecting that plastic and making our oceans and rivers clean again. So lots of amazing topics, lots of great lessons. It's called a mini kit, but there's so many lessons packed into this kit. And speaking of all the things that are packed into it, I wanted to unpack all that's packed in. So first off, you're getting two SamLabs physical blocks. You're getting a slider and a servo motor. You can see in the two white images there. And when I first started doing this project with Abby, I was asking her, what all can you do with just two SamLabs physical blocks? And I realized that this was an awesome constraint, and there's actually a lot that you can do, a lot of creative things you can do with just two blocks. But you're not just getting two blocks with this kit, you're also getting all of the SamLabs, the Sam Space, which is a free app. You're getting all of those virtual blocks. So students can create programs with inputs and outputs and behaviors. They can work with time and logic and motion and data. So there's so much they can do, so many coding possibilities. And if that were not enough, then we throw in Strawbees. And so there's Strawbees building straws and connectors. And you can see there on the bottom left, an example of a bridge in a city, and the way you can incorporate paper art with Strawbees. So those two things are an amazing part of the kit. But then there's also the pipe cleaners that you can manipulate and bend and turn and twist in different ways to create all kinds of amazing projects. And to really support teachers and learners, what I love about SamLabs and Strawbees is that you can go to Strawbees, and there's all of these, the links there at the bottom. I just kind of covered it up, I think, bottom left. But lots of great Strawbees learning lessons and activities that are freely available to you. And then on SamLabs, those lessons also, as Mackenzie mentioned, are free to access on the SamLabs content hub. You can post assignments virtually. You can print assignments out and send them home. So it's really great to support teachers and students. So much that you're getting with this mini kit. And so perhaps you may have not seen Strawbees before. So I wanted us to talk just a minute about what is Strawbees and how it's great for open-ended construction. So you can see on the left here with these colored connectors, they can be, they're extremely versatile. You can bend them and shape them in so many different ways to create different designs and inventions. Kids right now have always needed this, but even more so now, they need hands-on projects, and so they can, make different types of bridges or whatever fits within your content. I love that Strawbees is so reusable. They can build something amazing, and then they can quickly take it apart and they can build something else. I read on their website they can even put it in the dishwasher and clean them. So if you're worried about cleanliness, that's not an issue. It's really playful. When we first brought it to our house a few months ago, the boys, we have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it was a whole family affair to play with Strawbees and create these kind of moving inventions like this claw here where you can pick up and grab things, and my boys really enjoyed that. Right now we can't expect students to have 8 hours straight of screen time. We as educators can't do that. It's just too much, right? So what's great about Strawbees is it's great for screen-free building. And finally, at the bottom right there, it's adaptable. You can cut the straws different lengths for different projects, and that can be a measuring project for them. And it's also purposeful. Like with this crane here, students can be thinking about how things in their world work, how do cranes work, and they can make their own crane and they can test it out and improve it and redesign it. So it's a great way for students to learn about how the world operates. So final thoughts about Strawbees, if this is new for you or if it's not, just to expand what you think about Strawbees. I wanted to share a quote with you that kind of shows why it's a unique construction solution. This is a quote from their website. It says, "Strawbees is a construction set, which means it's made to build things." That's pretty self-evident. But to say it's made to build a specific type of things is the same as saying that a certain crayon is only made to draw flowers, right? This Strawbees is something where you can build so many different things with it. That's why I included these images where there's a static drawing. This is an example of the Venus flytrap that students will get to build with this kit. It looks like you just have a root system and a Venus flytrap and a sun and then an unsuspecting bug up at the top. But if you look at the dynamic drawing or the dynamic build with the Strawbees, you see that there is a mechanism that's closed and it has latched onto that bug. So with Strawbees, you can make things that move and bend in all kinds of exciting ways. And I think that kids really like that. Actually, I know that they like that because at the 2020 BET conference this year, Strawbees won the Kids Judge Award. So kids, out of all the things they tested and tried at that conference, it's a big edtech conference, they picked Strawbees. And so I think that really speaks volumes for how much students enjoy building with this tool. So you can see there, you can fit it together with the straws and connectors, you can slide it, you can click it in different ways. They have a great Strawbees education page on YouTube. They have a Strawbees learning site. There's all kinds of links I put at the bottom of the page. So please check those out. This is just a great way for students to build and to create things in a really open-ended and creative way. So now I'm going to hand things over to Abby to talk about how these lessons that we created for this mini kit, the STEAN mini kit, are really rooted in those standards that you're using.
Thank you, Sam. So Sam brought me onto this project when he realized that the SamLabs products are really deep, and that's something that I really appreciate as a second language teacher. I teach English as a second language, and teaching language is a very systematic process. So one thing that really appealed to me about these lessons is that SamLabs has a very systematic way of structuring the lessons, and they're all aligned to next generation science standards. So they begin with the bird's eye view, the overview, so that you as a teacher have an idea of what you're teaching. And then it moves sequentially from the warm up, where you're activating the students' prior knowledge so that they can then integrate it with the new knowledge. And the mini lesson is always tied to a next generation science standard. So you see an example of a slide, and it's the slide title is Movable High and Low Tech Solutions to Flooding. So that is based in the 3rd grade science standard. It's really tiny there. That says, make a claim about the merits of a design solution that reduces the impact of a weather-related hazard. So you can see this is very applicable, real-world learning that the students are doing here. And after, as a teacher, you teach the warm-up and the mini lesson, they're going to have a chance for the worked example to build their own prototype of a movable flood barrier. So you can see at the bottom here, Sam and I designed this flood barrier, which actually is collapsible, so it moves. So when the water level's low, the barrier is down, and when the water level rises, they can raise the barrier. Students can take this further. They can build a bigger structure. They could make multiple ones and lock them together. And so then the SamLabs lessons develop further with the challenge, and then the chili challenge and exit tickets. And I also want to mention the standards alignment map that is in the orange box. And you can see that this we chose next generation science standards, and they're very really in-depth standards that are great for kids. And what I also like about SamLabs is that they want to provide new content. So we're not just recycling the same topics within the standards, but we're choosing different topics within the standards. And the Common Core ELA and math and computer science standards are also integrated throughout the lessons, so that you're really investing in your students' learning and making it stick, because the standards are cross-curricular and they're aligned. And Sam is going to now tell you about his favorite part of the lessons, which is how do you integrate the arts, how do you integrate art into STEAM?
Yes, this is my favorite part. This is why I do STEAM, is the art piece. I feel like the art in STEAM is what unlocks the science, the technology, the engineering, the math. Art is what I feel like gives students a voice and a way to express themselves. And the art is also an on-ramp for students to understand what can be more difficult topics in science or in math. So with this kit, students are going to have so many opportunities to do art. Whether it's drawing and sketching. So if you looks like I took a balloon and turned it to the left. That's actually a model of a real prototype, a real design that's in the oceans right now. The students will learn about, that is propelled forward by wind and water. And as it's propelled forward, you look at the back end there, it looks like there's a little tiny parachute that students will get to draw and sketch out of their own, that slows it down. And as it slows it down, it collects the plastic in the ocean, and signified by the paper art there. What's great about paper art and putting this into STEAM and maker education learning is there's all kinds of ways that you can cut paper and you can tear it and be creative with it. So there's drawing and sketching, there's paper art, and there's also opportunities to shape cardboard in different ways. And so I want to show you two quick videos that Abby and I made. And here is one of them. You kind of already got a preview of this colorful creature. This is an example of the art in place. So yeah, you've got a chameleon, and with a cardboard tail that's, has a colorful design. You have Strawbees that they're movable, that you can make structures like the structure of a chameleon's body. You have SamLabs blocks that are controlling the tongue and making it sway back and forth, and you have a bug that it's trying to catch. So this is one example of the art in STEAM, but I have one more for you. Since I told you earlier about the Ring of Fire and how students will get to research and learn about and investigate volcanoes. So you've got there at the top, billowing out of the volcano, the smoke and ash, a pastel drawing. Students can use whatever coloring materials they have. You have some pipe cleaners wrapped around the servo motor that's turning as if the lava is spilling out. And then for the structure of the volcano, you have the Strawbees providing that support. So lots of ways to do art and as part of this STEAM mini kit. So I serve gifted students. And so what that means is I'm serving students that need enrichment. They need advanced opportunities. And SamLabs has that with the chili challenges portions of these lessons. So you can see the 1 chili, 2 chilies, and 3 chilies there that give students a chance to kind of level up. I serve students that need to be stretched and that need something, an added challenge at the end of whatever we're doing, a way to expand it. And so whether it's with the code you can see on the right, the flow-based code, or it's with the maker challenges, or it's these, I would say these scenarios where students have to put themselves in the scenarios and imagine that they've been hired by NASA to program a smart magnetometer, or they're working to program the cameras on the Parker Solar Space Probe. These are great challenges to get students to have to think higher and to promote higher order thinking, to get students to really think deeply about what they're learning about. And if you haven't experienced SamLabs coding before, one reason why I really think it's a great way to learn code and to have a foundation in learning coding is it's so visual, it's so intuitive. Sometimes when we teach coding, we just kind of drop kids into it and we say, well, today we're doing conditionals and now we're doing sequencing blocks. But instead, what I like about SamLabs and the way that we're doing coding with this kit is it's very purposeful. And so as an example of that, with this code here, this is getting kids to imagine in this lesson that they're paleontologists and they're fossil preparators. And so with this slider and this servo motor, that is the hammer that is digging in that rock. And then there's a push button and a buzzer that is signifying the sounds of the rock hammer hitting the rock. And finally, students have to consider, well, let's say we have to work at night and we need to figure out a lighting system that can help us, that can go around our perimeter. It can help us to see as we work at night. Well, how can we get our lights signified by the LEDs to stay on? Well, SamLabs has some great information about the blocks and what those blocks do. So students really get a great foundation in the blocks that they're using. They really understand the inputs, the outputs, the behaviors, and they're not just doing coding because they're told to be doing coding. And the big connection is they're learning about, in these topics, real careers in STEAM. You know, Abby and I are passionate about STEAM because we don't want our students just to have amazing experiences right now. We want to prepare them and give them the opportunity to do whatever it is they want to do. Whether if it's a STEAM education career, if they want to be a botanist after learning about plants, if they want to be a vet after exploring about birds of prey and all the amazing things that they can do, we want to give them that opportunity. And so SamLabs is a great way to learn coding, and it's so intuitive and visual. So I'm going to hand things back over. I talked a bit about to Abby. I talked a bit about how it's great for supporting those higher learners, but also this kit is really made to support all learners. So she's going to talk about that now.
Thanks, Sam. So absolutely, we want our kids to be envisioning themselves in STEAM careers. And we also want to be, in our teaching, we want to be supporting multimodal learning. So we built throughout the kit, we have made sure that it appeals to our visual learners. A lot of times students who their native language is not English, they need those visual cues so that they can, as I said earlier, activate that prior knowledge and begin making connections and thinking about what they're learning. So it's very appealing to visual learners. There are high quality photographs in all the slides. And it also appeals to our auditory learners. We really, as teachers, want to support oral discussion, and we have higher order questions, as Sam mentioned earlier, and also lots of programming using sound and music. For our kinesthetic learners, we have role plays and plenty of opportunities for building with Strawbees, also activities in the warm-ups that involve movement. We also have support for students for reading and writing with the explicit teaching of vocabulary, which I will talk about in just a minute. So this is the slide to just really summarize what this kit is about. It's ready-made by teachers, for teachers and students. It's designed for in-school and at-home learning. Sam emphasized this, so I won't go through it again, but we did research every topic within the standard so to make sure that information was current, and we also supplied ready-made materials. So as a teacher, your lesson plan is packed with information so that you have more background knowledge and feel confident teaching it to your students. The student slides are already made for you, and we've designed those to really get the kids excited about the things that they're learning. During this time when we can't go in a lot of places, we can't travel around the world, but we still can through STEAM, through this learning kit. The student handout really also supports students reading and writing, and you can assign this in Google Classroom or your LMS that you use, or you can print it out and send it home. And it will give students a chance to read, write, practice the vocabulary, annotate their code, all those great things. And finally, I was going to tell you that Sophie Goodstein, she's on here tonight, she makes these amazing step-by-step coding. So if you're not familiar with a lot of coding, like me, I don't code a lot, so these would be really helpful for me to help support my students. I could be learning alongside my students. So don't let a fear of coding stop you from trying something new. And the final star here, we integrated strategies that have high effect sizes. So strategies that are going to keep kids growing even though we're doing distance learning. So we have tier 2 and tier 3 vocabulary that we're teaching, higher order thinking questions, strategies to integrate with their prior knowledge, checks for understanding that you can use as formative assessment, and finally the fun hands-on STEAM and coding maker activities, which appeal to that highest level of Bloom's taxonomy, that create level. We want to get kids excited, engaged, and learning, and still growing even during a time that is not ideal and hard for so many families and teachers. So don't forget though that these lessons will be freely accessible online once they're released.
Oh, that was awesome, Abby. Thank you for sharing that. Sorry for jumping the gun there. So we're trying to take, in making this, we're teachers and we wanted to take care of teachers and take care of students in what we created. So it's really ready to go for you. Just to give you an example of what open-ended design looks like, this is one of my favorite projects. I realized that I didn't have my sound on earlier, so this one you should be able to hear, but this is an example of the arcade style ball drop. Your students do not have to make it exactly like mine. It's one that our family made this summer and it was so much fun. One of those things that you just keep the project up and you just keep testing and trying out new things because everybody in the family just loves it. You don't take it down for a while. You're like, how long has this been in the living room? So here we go. Here's our arcade style ball drop. And is part of the mini kit. And that video was actually shot by my 7-year-old. So, but just to get you thinking about how students can use the things that they have in front of them. They can get cardboard. We took paper towel rolls, Strawbees, tape, SamLabs blocks, and made this amazing arcade ball drop. Just want to give you an example of what that looks like for your own lessons. And just get you thinking about why open-ended design is so important. Besides getting kids to use the materials that they find, getting them used to basic design constraints. You know, they're already in, but when they're adults, they're going to enter a world where there are constraints. There are environmental constraints. There are legal constraints. There are laws that have to be followed. There are budgetary constraints and limited funding. And so they have to work within those constraints. And it's good for them to learn that now. It's also a great way to cultivate creativity in students. And what Abby and I feel very strongly about, which is invention literacy, teaching students how to be inventors, how to look at the problems they have and say, you know what, I have a solution to that. I have something that I can do to solve that problem. Opportunities to test and improve their designs. And as a final thought, if you came to this webinar and thought, why SamLabs and Strawbees, this was not like this random put together of something. It was actually more of like, how can we take two things that are amazing and make them even better combined? So how can students take what they have and combine them with this kit and make something amazing, make a real solution to a problem in their world? So I haven't shared with you with my students yet, but the reason why we're doing all of this, you know, whether students go on to STEAM careers or not, we want our students to be empowered with STEAM. And we know that STEAM transforms students' lives. And so I want to show you a quick clip of my students and one of my favorite moments with them doing STEAM. And before I play that, I have some questions just for you to be thinking about. I don't know if we'll have time to look at, to discuss them, or something that you can think about in your own time, or you can put in the chat. But how does STEAM learning transform and empower our students? What has been your most powerful STEAM moments in or out of the classroom? A lot of times it happens out of the classroom. And then why is it so important now in this moment to keep teaching STEAM even in hybrid and remote learning? It's very easy right now to say we only need math and reading and writing, and STEAM kind of, you know, we'll get back to later. No, why do we need STEAM still now? Some things to think about. But here's one clip of my students loving STEAM with SamLabs.
So cool.
Great storm. Great tornado. So in that, you had two of my girls that were just, you know, you could hear them say, this is so cool. Just the fun, the excitement, the amazement at what they created, their storm. So just want to share that with you and get you thinking about how STEAM is so empowering and transformative. But I don't just want students to, you know, we don't just want our students to be creative. I would encourage you to also think about your own creativity and how you can think of creative ways to combine the things that you have, the technologies that you have, and to mesh those together in ways that perhaps you hadn't imagined before. I'm encouraging you, I'm inviting you to test materials, to tinker, to play with what you have. So this video on the left here, the first one, is an example of that. So you have SamLabs code, you have copper tape circuit with Chibitronics, you have artwork that was drawn on top of tracing paper, so many things that you combine together just for that one project, and just kind of tinkering and playing around and saying, how could I use these materials that I've had in new ways? I also want to encourage you, this middle video, to think about how to build projects of different magnitudes. So build something really tiny, build something that you can wear, build something that is massive and huge. So our family built something that was really large, and you'll see that in this quick clip. So we took 4 Sierpinski triangles with Strawbees and put them together to make a giant pyramid. And then, because it's summer and what else did we have to do and we're stuck at home, we found every LED we could find in the house and we attached them to the pyramid and we coated it. And it was amazing. And we put sleigh bell music to it as well. So think about new projects that you can create of different sizes and scales. Your creativity will rub off on your students. And you will also be happier in being creative. I think that everyone was made to be creative. And then finally, this last one, in building student confidence and your confidence as an educator, you will start to find your voice and students will find their voice. So with this last project, this is a way to really put it all together and tell a story. I don't know if you've seen the movie Inside Out, and all the characters that had that represent different emotions: anger, fear, sadness, joy, disgust. What I connect with most, though, was sadness, because a pandemic is hard for everyone. So here's a final clip thinking about how to combine technologies in a creative way to represent the sadness that I was feeling. And so in this project, you had art, you had music, you had hopefully a message that I conveyed to you. And so I want students to have a voice. I want you to have a voice as well. Something to think about. Just want to leave you with this slide for where, if you're interested, you can purchase these kits. So this is a link to Strawbees, and they have some great coupons going on right now. And then also a link to the SamLabs website and some discounts that they have going on as well. I know with SamLabs you can get a demo, you can get a quote. I'm sure with Strawbees you can also have something that's tailored to your needs. And now, without further ado, it is time for a little bit of a Q&A if we have a few minutes, and then also giveaway. So I'm going to turn things back over to Ziad and Mackenzie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much again for taking the time and sort of showing us what you've been working on, and bringing this this webinar along. If anyone has any questions that sort of weren't answered in the Q&A, or have something that you'd like us to go over now's a great second while we're finishing up the raffle to sort of answer anything that you may have. So please fire away if anyone has any questions. So Jesse asks, what about if you're homeschooling or in a parent co-op? That is a great question. And this is actually something that came up a lot during the summer, where a lot of students were going to be out and hanging out with their friends and they were unable to. So what we did is we started a couple of different summer camps. I think Mackenzie can talk to you a little bit about how some of the parents ended up having to teach some of these lessons.
Yeah, so that was something on our mind, and that's originally why we did the 8 Weeks of STEAM Coding series, to support parents and students and also teachers with the direct instruction of SamLabs if they weren't able to do so. But moving forward, this can definitely be used in homeschooling or adapted content that we will be releasing. Essentially, you can use the digital classroom at home, and the students can click on the Nearpod link and go through the lessons on their own, because we'll have the voiceovers, we'll have the videos of showing the kids how to put the blocks together, how to actually build the code. So we're making it so that it's ready to use and you can use it for direct instruction. It's also led by certified teachers. We all were teachers and we'll be doing the videos, and so you can feel confident that the kids will be learning all of the standards for next generation science, Common Core, ELA, and math, as well as those computer science standards. That's a great question though.
Yeah, and one thing to note too is if you have like a one-off scenario, that's something that seems to be more true and true. So whether it's you're having trouble teaching from home, or if you are working with a parent co-op, just feel free to reach out to us, book a demo list. We're more than happy to sort of put together like a presentation to figure out how to make it work for you. So at any time you could let us know, and we're happy to sort of make it a little bit custom built. Ali had asked if we are going to get copies of the presentation. We're actually going to be uploading it onto our website, so in the future you will be able to view it. And then lastly, J. Roger Hay had asked, Sam, what would you recommend as cleaning products for the Sam blocks that you have used? And could you speak to the time it might take to clean up and prep equipment during a hybrid model?
This is a great question. So I I think I need to see if Mackenzie or Ziad could provide more of a clear response for SamLabs blocks. I know I spoke about Strawbees, but when our schools actually went to virtual learning in March, and so I haven't seen my students and done in-person learning since then. So I haven't had the opportunity to use the SamLabs blocks since then in person and to clean them for, I serve at 8 schools. So when I am able to see them in person again, I'm interested to hear the answer to this question, because I will need, if I'm at 8 schools and we're sharing materials, we're going to need to find a way to make sure everything is properly cleaned.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that we're doing in general is sort of restructuring how we're organizing SamLabs products so that they can be sealed off individually. So that way, when you are prepping to be giving these to different students, they'll actually have their own lid as opposed to one container filled with the Sam blocks. So that's one way of compartmentalizing it, so students aren't interacting with the other students' blocks. As far as cleaning it goes, that's something we're always working on and figuring out what other teachers are using. We don't have an exact answer now on what the SamLabs recommended tool is, but typically it's just been taking off the rubber coating and then cleaning it with like a Lysol wipe. But once we have like an exact answer, we can get back to you on like, hey, this is like the SamLabs suggested protocol of what we do. But it really also does depend on school to school on sort of how they're sharing out the blocks. Lastly, Ali had asked if you can be in contact with any of our consultants later in this week, and the answer is absolutely yes. Anytime you want to reach out to us, I had actually dropped my email address, and you can reach out to our colleague, Kelly Kuhn, who will be dropping her email shortly here, and she can sort of redirect you to who you need to speak with to answer whatever question that may be. And while we've been going over this, in the background, we've randomized a winner for the Amazon gift card, and I believe the winner is Conrad Gross. So if you're still in the chat, congratulations, Conrad. We'll get in contact with you and we'll send you over the gift card, and thank you for attending. And thank you all for attending. If there are any more questions that we can answer, excuse me. All right. Well, thank you everyone again. And thank you, Sam and Abigail, for coming and joining us. And thank you for, helping co-host this webinar. And hopefully this is something that we'll be doing in the future. We'll definitely be talking about remote learning next week. So please feel free to attend. We have a number of different times next week, but thank you all for joining, and everyone have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Great to see everyone. Did everyone get the coupon code? Somebody asked for that in the chat. I don't know.
Ooh, I can definitely take a look. So I can look in the chat to see who it is, and I'll make sure to email it to them.
Okay, great.
All right, bye guys. Thank you again.
Bye.
Nice job.
Thank you all.
Bye. Great job, Mackenzie, Ziad, Abby.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
It was fun. Bye.
Bye.